Seats, everyone. And I'd like to remind you before we begin to make sure your cell phones are turned off.
We sing to God all the time, every day, every service, every moment of our lives. Shir El Adonai. I'm proud to say that this was composed by one of my teachers, Cantor Lawrence Avery of blessed memory, professor at Hebrew Union College. He wrote this about 45 years ago, and it's beautiful and lively, so join with us whenever you can.
יורדי הים מלוא shiru, 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 l'Adonai.
I knew you'd know it.
Shiru, 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 shir chadash. Tehilato mikzei haaretz, shiru l'Adonai. Tehilato mikzei haaretz, shiru l'Adonai. Shiru, 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 shiru l'Adonai. Shiru, 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 shir chadash. Tehilato mikzei haaretz, shiru l'Adonai. Tehilato mikzei haaretz, shiru l'Adonai.
Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash.
Tehilato mikzei haaretz,
Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash.
Tehilato mikzei haaretz,
Shiru.
Yornei hayam umlo, imim veyoshveihem. Yornei hayam umlo, imim veyoshveihem. Shiru, 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 shiru l'Adonai. Shiru, 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 shir chadash. Tehilato mikzei haaretz, shiru l'Adonai. Tehilato mikzei haaretz, shiru l'Adonai.
Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Tehilato mikzei haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Tehilato mikzei haaretz. That's the end of that piece.
So, we are finally here to celebrate our first Shabbat in the Audrey Irmas Pavilion. So nice to be here with you. And we are celebrating new beginnings and this new space and this new season of spring, the season of growth and fertility and abundance and the richness of possibilities that we hope are in store for us. It's been a long winter. We have seen many dark days, and as we look around at the light, the beautiful light shining through the windows, the green glass, the clear glass behind us, we pray and hope for a lifting of clouds, for some joy and some peace. And what better way to celebrate this season of renewal than with the music and poetry, which we will hear tonight, of the most beautiful book in the Tanakh, the Song of Songs, Shir HaShirim. Written almost 2,500 years ago, it's called The Song because it's so popular and famous, is a series of magnificent, spiritual, emotional love poems about a young between a young Israelite woman and her beloved, a shepherd boy. It's set in the early spring where everything and everyone is ripening. The song embodies the vibrant pulse of the life force which inhabits every aspect of our world, from the scented air of the blossoming flowers, to the vibrant music of the singing birds, to the power and grace of the gazelles and the wild stags who gaze at us from the hilltops. All of this is in the song, but most significantly, the passion and desire of two young lovers, which speak to us through the centuries, reminding us of what it means to be alive and in love. This love song, it was a collection of 8 love poems, were so popular that when the rabbis were putting together the Bible, they couldn't exclude it. But how could they justify this beautiful, emotional love story in the Bible? And so they said it's actually a love story between God and the Jewish people. But we know really, most scholars, and I believe, it's really a more human love story which touches us so personally. The passion and the desire of these young lovers speak to us through the centuries. Let me lie among the vine blossoms in a bed of apricots. I am in a fever of love. Bind me as a seal upon your heart, a sign upon your arm. For love is as fierce as death, its jealousy as bitter as the grave. Even its sparks are a raging fire, a devouring flame. I wrote my thesis on this book for rabbinical school because I loved it so much. The song has soaring images of the natural world to remind us what it's like to live in harmony with God's creations. An enclosed garden is my sister, my bride, a hidden well, a sealed spring. Your branches are an orchard of pomegranate trees heavy with fruit, flowering henna and spikenard, saffron, cane, and cinnamon. You are a fountain in the garden, a well of living waters, the stream from Lebanon. And the powerful poetry reminds us of how we all are connected and how the power of that glorious connection uplifts our hearts and touches all our senses. Dodi li va'ani lo haro'eh bashoshanim. Dodi li va'ani lo is often said at weddings. This is some of the most powerful love poetry of Judaism. I am my beloved and my beloved is mine, a shepherd among the lilies. Who is that rising from the desert like a pillar of smoke, more fragrant with myrrh and frankincense than all the spices of the merchant? Dodi li. Invite Donna Nadell and Jody Berman to come up and light the Shabbat candles. Yes, and we can clap for them. They work very hard for us every day. Now, by the way, if you look behind your chairs, you will find the Siddur in the pouch right behind you if you need a prayer book. It's page 2 and 3.
join together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, etzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
So just like the ancient Israelites were in love with love, so are the Kabbalists. The Kabbalists, who created the Kabbalah, they had a great respect for the feminine and the masculine in combination. And they even had women Kabbalists because they were very egalitarian when it came to mystical visions and mystical ideas. And one of their greatest mystical ideas was that the Shabbat was a bride, and that the Jewish people was the groom, and that Shabbos is a wedding. And so one of the Kabbalists, Moshe Alkabetz? Shlomo Halevi Alkabetz, sorry. Shlomo Alkabetz, Moshe, Shlomo. And he wrote this beautiful song to the Shabbat bride, Lecha Dodi, which we now sing every Shabbat on page 20 in your prayer book, Lecha Dodi.
This is a new setting for you, but the melody is really catchy, so we hope you'll join along.
remain standing. Baruch Hu. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la la la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We'll try that again. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. That's a yofi. That's pretty good. So I thought this is very interesting. It's really special that we're in this space. As Rabbi Nanas, you said, like, finally we're here and we get to experience this place. And I was thinking about these two different prayers that we just experienced, Baruch Hu and Shema. Right, where Baruch Hu is considered our call to prayer, right? That there was a calling, and maybe don't mean to put him on the spot, but I will a little bit, right? That Rabbi Leader had a calling to create something really special and really beautiful. And then we move into Shema, and what does Shema mean? We translate that, it means to listen or hear, right? Oh, it'll never happen. Oh, it's a terrible idea. What? Nobody's gonna, why would you, right? Look, he heard it all, right? But he also heard, this is gonna be so great for the city. This is so wonderful. I love this. This is gonna bring people together in community, right? And it was, what did he choose to listen to, right? But actually, that's for all of us. Any of our dreams, our passions, our hopes, the things that we're striving for, that we're looking for, that may be a little bit out of our comfort zone. And you're going to hear it all. Oh, there's no way you're going to get that job. Why would you even think about doing that? What do you mean, a relationship like that? Oh, that person will never be, right? You're going to hear it all. But what we choose to listen to, right? Get away from the noise, but really focus on the words of the people who we know have our best interest in mind, who love us and who we love, right? They're the ones that we should be listening to. We're going to hear everything. A lot of it is noise. Rather, we should choose to listen to, moving into V'ahavta, right? The ones that have our beautiful love, passion, and strength, and the best intention. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
And we join now in those ancient words of love and commandment, V'ahavta. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Shabbat Shalom. So nice. I have my youngest daughter sitting on my lap, following along in the Hebrew, so it's so special. It's rare that I get to sit with her on my lap at services. On Fridays, I teach the fourth grade students at Browerman here. On Thursdays, I do it at the West Campus, and on Fridays, I do it here. And since Passover is coming up, we focused on Passover, and I was told that the students are going to be helping to lead the part of the Seder that talks about the four children. So we should go over the four children. So we went through that today. We talked about how in the Seder, and many of them actually seems at their Seders they skip this part, so it was good that we reviewed this. So we talked about there are four children, traditionally four sons, the wise one, the wicked, the simple, and the one that doesn't know how to ask. And so we talked about this. We looked at some artistic renditions from a Haggadah of these four different children and talked about that. And one of the things that I asked at the very end, after we had gone through the fact that the wise one was the person who asks detailed questions about Passover, wants to know the details about all the intricacies of the holiday. And the wicked one is the one who says, well, what does this holiday mean to you? And they separate themselves from everyone else. And then there's the simple one who just asks, what is this? Doesn't really even know much about it and is just trying to get a basic sense of the holiday. And then the one who doesn't know how to ask, the one who just doesn't even have the capacity to ask questions. And so I said, which of these four children, and if let's be honest, let's focus on two of them, which is worse, the wicked child or the simple child? Or not even that, wicked or the one who doesn't even know how to ask? Now I thought these fourth graders would say, automatically all of them would say wicked, the wicked one, the one who separates themselves. But the majority of the class chose the one who doesn't even know how to ask. And I was so proud of them because I agree. I agree that actually the worst, the most challenging for society is the one who doesn't even know how to ask. And they brought some good reasons. For example, they said that, well, at least the wicked one knows how to ask a question and is a part of the conversation. They might not agree with everyone else, but at least if by them knowing how to ask the question, they can be a part of the conversation and they can be taught to think about things differently. But the one who doesn't know how to ask doesn't even know how to engage in the conversation. And they are the ones that can't even help us change things. And so from the mind of our children is the truth that leads us into this next prayer, Mi Chamocha. Freedom is about the ability, and as I talked about with the children today, the most important thing is not about the ability to be able to know a lot of information, to have the right answers. The most important skill is to be able to ask good questions. The more questions you know how to ask, the deeper you can learn about a subject. So, Mi Chamocha, this next prayer about our freedom, the story that we are going to be telling around the Seder table in a couple of weeks, the only way we can free ourselves and bring about more freedom in the society is if we can ask more and more questions, if we can get at the heart of the issues that exist. And the biggest challenge that we face are those who don't even engage in the conversation at all. And that's what we have to look out for. And we have a responsibility, just as the Jews stood at the edge of that sea, we have a responsibility to help people see that they have the capacity to open up their minds to cross over that sea from enslavement to freedom. Mi Chamocha.
As Rabbi Nickerson reminded us that Pesach is just a few weeks away, tonight we will weave together two profound and ancient musical traditions. One is Shir HaShirim, which has its own special trope. The second one is Shirat Hayam, the Song at the Sea. This is the Torah portion we read in traditional congregations, the seventh day of Passover, and for Reform, it's the last day. That Torah portion is from Exodus. Bishalach is the Torah portion. In the middle of that portion, the centerpiece, perhaps the oldest fragment in the entire Torah, is this ancient poem song. The word shir for the ancients was poem and song together. Poems were sung. And the Ashkenazic tradition that dates back hundreds of years, every time the name of God appears in that ancient poem, we sing a special melody, which deviates from the regular Torah trope. That little melody became known as Shirat Hayam, the Song at the Sea, and it was placed upon other moments in our liturgy as well, when there's a moment of transferring from one season to another, finishing one book of the Torah to another. We invoke that melody. So we perform now for you this setting of Mi Chamocha, which utilizes this ancient Ashkenazic trope for those words from the ancient poem. Ashir al-Adonai ki goga sus v'rochvo rama v'yam. God chose Moses to lead us to freedom and slave in Egypt for 400 years. You must convince Pharaoh to free my people. They have shown faith in me through their sweat and their tears. I will sing to the Lord a song of rejoicing. Now let all be free to sing with joy. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nohara tehilot, o sefele, o sefele. God hardened the heart of the Pharaoh of Egypt. 10 plagues came down at Moses' command. The people of Egypt cried out to their Pharaoh, till at last he proclaimed, "Get out of my land." I will sing to the Lord a song of deliverance. Now let all be free to sing with joy. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nohara tehilot, o sefele, o sefele. Yemincha Adonai, nedari b'koach. Yemincha Adonai, tirat soyev. People, they hurry to flee
Vishamru, page 44.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
כי ששת ימים, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We'll turn now to page 46. We rise for the Amidah.
Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch ata Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מכלכל חיים בחסד מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממי מחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל.
Continue with the remainder of our Amidah silently through page 62, either with the words on the pages of the prayer book or the words of our hearts.
Adonai tzuri v'goali. Oseh shalom b'meromah. Yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yimeru. Amen.
That melody of that setting of Eula Ratzon by one of my teachers, Cantor Charles Davidson, was written in memory of another one of my great teachers, Lazar Weiner. He said it in Shir HaShirim cantillation. That's the traditional Ashkenazic melody by which we chant the entire book of Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, that beautiful plaintive trope. In a moment, each of your cantors is going to offer a setting of a text from Shir HaShirim. There are hundreds and hundreds of song settings from the texts of Shir HaShirim. As Rabbi Nanis mentioned, it was written sometime around between the 4th and 6th centuries. And it is, in fact, love poetry. It is sensual, it is sexual, and it is about the beauty of nature. That's also why the ancient sages had difficulty including it in the biblical canon. But they did, because it was so beloved by the people. So you hear now several different settings from different time periods of text from Shir HaShirim.
Hinach Yafa, how beautiful. These verses talk about the loved one's eyes being like doves peeking out of the cleft of a cliff.
במיטתי כבר שבועות ביקשתי את שעבה נפשי ולא מצאתי. חיפשתי בין כל רחובות העיר העמוסה שקרים הזאת ולא מצאתי. מצאוני השומרים הסובבים בעיר החרובי כמעט ולא מצאתי אותו, אך לא פה ממנו עד שאביו אל תוך עירי, אל בית אמי ואל חדרי אל מיטתי. הנך יפה רעייתי ושפתותי חודשני, כמו הלבונה מזאת עולה מן המדבר מארץ רחוקה, נישאת על כנף ציפור גדולה הגיעה לביתי. במיטתי 7 שבועות ביקשתי את שעבה נפשי ולא מצאתי. חיפשתי בין כל רחובות העיר העמוסה שקרים הזאת ולא מצאתי. מצאוני השומרים הסובבים בעיר החרובי כמעט ולא מצאתי אותו, אך לא פה ממנו עד שאביא אל תוך עירי, אל בית אמי ואל חדרי אל מיטתי. הנך יפה רעייתי ושפתותייך חודשני, שינייך לבנות כמו הלבנה מזאת עולה מן המדבר מארץ רחוקה, נישאת על כנף ציפור גדולה הגיעה לביתי. הנך יפה רעייתי ושפתותייך חודשני, שינייך לבנות כמו הלבנה מזאת עולה מן המדבר מארץ רחוקה, נישאת על כנף ציפור גדולה הגיעה לביתי. הגיעה לביתי. הגיעה לביתי.
There are numerous references to the rose in Shir HaShirim. Here is one setting by colleague and friend Cantor Mayor Finkelstein.
אני חבצרת, אני חבצרת, חבצרת השרון, שושנת העמקים. אני חבצרת, אני חבצרת, חבצרת השרון, שושנת העמקים, כשושנה בין החוכים, כן רעייתי בין הבנות, כשושנת בין החוקים, ken rayati ben abonot ketapu akbatse ayar ken dori ben abanim. Chavat salet hasharon Shoshanat ha'amakim Shoshanat ha'amakim.
This next piece is called The Voice of My Beloved by composer Max Helfman, and a little piece of LA movie trivia history, seen as here at Wilshire Boulevard Temple. Our founding is so closely related to the great movie moguls of Hollywood. He wrote this piece, Max Helfman, for the late and great Marnie Nixon, who, for those of you who remember the great movie musicals, was the voice of Maria in West Side Story and the voice of Ava Gardner in Showboat. And so Max Helfman was a close friend of this studio singer and wrote this beautiful Voice of My Beloved for her.
come away, and come away. For lo, the winter is past, the rains are over and gone, and gone.
For three voices.
Anna halachto dech hayafa banashim, Anna panado dech unavakshinu imach. Anna halachto dech hayafa banashim, Anna panado dech unavakshinu imach. Todi yara legano, la arugot haposem. Todi yara legano, la arugot haposem. Anna halachto dech hayafa banashim, Anna panado dech unavakshinu imach. Anna halachto dech hayafa banashim, Anna panado.
The room gets prettier as the sun goes down, doesn't it? It starts to. And someday soon, we're going to be able to light the windows behind me. And first the building, then the jewelry. Okay? It's, you know how we use these expressions all the time. It's good to see you. And they don't mean much. Man, it's good to see you. To see each other. I feel like I'm the only one who actually looks 2.5 years older. But my suit for when I'm at my heaviest, and it was kind of tight. This afternoon I put it on, I saw the buttons on my shirt were social distancing. And I thought, wow, if I'm coming back out of the cave, I have some work to do. But that's okay. That's all right. And note to self, for the last verse, verse 9 of Lecha Dodi, we're going to face the entrance and not the cross. I just couldn't,
I couldn't do it. So yeah, we're gonna face the entrance. Okay. All right. We've heard a lot of beautiful music tonight, and my drosh is going to be very brief, and not like rabbi very brief, but actually very brief. There's actually a rabbi in Chicago named Neil Brief, and the youth group kids called him Not So. That's true, by the way. Yeah, Lincoln Township in Chicago, a suburban synagogue, Rabbi Brief. Yeah. Just say a few quick words about the Parsha. There's so much I want to talk about, but I'm just going to talk about a tiny piece of it. Some of you know this is the Torah portion Tazria, which is usually translated as leprosy, and it's really not. Tzara'at is a kind of umbrella term for a lot of different diseases and afflictions, but diseases nonetheless. And the curious thing about this parsha and how it begins is it doesn't start with those physical diseases. It starts with the notion of a woman giving birth, being, as it's translated in Torah, unclean for 7 days if she has a boy and 14 days if she has a girl. Somehow having a girl is like a double dose of uncleanliness, right? And there are other really troubling usages of this idea of being tameh, unclean, as it's translated. And they're problematic not because of, I believe, the concept, but because of the poor translation of the word. The first mitzvah in the Torah, anybody know? First commandment, first thou shalt in the Torah. Mickey, I know you know. Come on now. Pru'orvu, be fruitful and multiply. Make babies. By the way, it's very important. American Jews have 1.7 children per couple now. Replacement rate is 2.1. So yeah, pru'orvu, make babies. First commandment. And a woman fulfills that commandment, and she's considered unclean. There are other mitzvot that render one unclean. Touching a corpse, preparing a body for burial, also a mitzvah. Unclean. And then there are all of these skin diseases where you are considered unclean and you isolate outside the camp. And it all seems pretty insensitive, pretty barbaric. But I think that's because of a poor translation. When we hear unclean, we think dirty, right? The rabbis see it differently. I see it differently. When a person was considered tameh, or there's tumah b'ohel, there's uncleanliness in the tent, in the camp, yes, that person was isolated to protect everyone else from transmission. Sound familiar? The person was visited by the priest, not a physician, the priest, which is already the first indication of the ancient understanding of this word that we lack. And another very powerful idea is that while this person was isolated and the priest went to visit after 7 days, and if not healed after 14 days, the camp did not move on. The Israelites stayed put and didn't abandon the person who was tameh. If you think about childbirth, and about half of us here in the room, I would venture to say, have actually experienced it, and the other half got yelled at, but also experienced it. It is a powerful, powerful experience. And any of us here who have actually handled a dead body, prepared a body for burial, it is a powerful, powerful experience. And it is virtually impossible to go through an encounter with life and death, and go have a sandwich and get back to work. It's impossible. And our ancestors understood that. And it is impossible to have a visible affliction and be expected to pretend it doesn't exist. And to be expected you are not being stared at or moved away from. It's easy to forget the early days of COVID. Remember wiping down everything? Remember changing clothes before you come in the house? Remember when we had to go outside, had to go to the grocery store, and everyone near us felt like a threat? And we behaved accordingly, with suspicion, with distance, and we were treated the same. And it was all unbalanced, out of whack. The world was upside down, inside out. And it's these encounters with our finitude, with our vulnerability, with the power of blood and the power of birth and the power of death that makes us tameh. But I don't see it as unclean. If I were able to retranslate the Torah, which I guess I am, but really like a printed edition, I would use a phrase. I would use a phrase, not a word, to translate tameh. I would say spiritually unbalanced. And therefore deserving of time. And deserving of the camp, the rest of us, when a person is feeling so spiritually lost, so surreal. This person also deserves the rest of us not to leave them behind. And this leads me to the Mishaberach, which we're about to sing. I want to read you a text that I got at 5:35 this afternoon when I was driving here. And yes, I read it. Hi, Steve. Really wanted to come to Shabbat tonight. Unfortunately, won't make it. I'm going to change the name in the text. Michael is not well. He's been at a care facility for 4 months. We don't know if he's going to make it. He's been to the ER at UCLA a few weeks ago. They sent him back. Wednesday and Thursday this week at the ER in Burbank, sent him back. Michael says he can't do it anymore. Says, "Can I please die? I hope it will be sooner than later. Can't do this anymore." Southern California hospitals won't admit him anymore. It's called risk management. Social worker can't believe all this and is trying to help. Only hospital left in LA is County Hospital. We know one doctor there. Have been wondering if someone would take him in. Someone who could get all the help he needs. At my total wit's end and terrified to lose our child. Anyway, could you say the prayer for healing, the Mishaberach, tonight for Michael? I know it's short notice. I was so hoping to be there and say it silently during the service. Shabbat Shalom. In all my years of being with people who are suffering, I've discovered, including my own, that it's not really the physical pain itself that is the worst of it. It is the feeling of abandonment, of being in it alone, of being, sent home one of the rabbis who writes about our obligation to the ill, to the sick, whether physically or mentally, says there are 3 types of help we're commanded to give. 1, physical help. We give with our goof, with our body. We show up, we visit, we fluff the pillows, we raise the bed, we clear the dishes, we fill the fridge with groceries before they get home. We physically show up, we visit. The Talmud says, when you visit the sick, you remove 1/60th of their illness. I asked my Talmud professor, actually Karen Fox is here tonight, Rabbi Fox, this is a big night, and Mickey's here, and she probably knew Jacob Petachovsky, who was my teacher in Cincinnati at Hebrew Union College, and he happened to be teaching a Talmud class I took, and we covered this text, and I said, let me ask you something, Dr. Petachovsky. Does that mean if I visit someone 60 times, they get better? And he was not amused. But this is a powerful insight that showing up physically reduces a person's suffering by a 60th. The second way is with mammon, with our money. When people say, well, at least you've got your health, or, if money can solve it, it's not a problem. The only people who say that are people with money. It's horrible to be sick in this country without money. Horrible. It's bad to be sick in this country with money. And we have an obligation to help people who cannot afford the care they need. And finally, with our nefesh, says the rabbi, with our souls. And he goes on to elaborate that what he means is that we ought to pray for people who are ill. Pray for them. And let them know we're praying for them. I'm praying for Michael tonight. Because that pierces this profound sense of abandonment and this profound sense of being in it alone. It really helps people to know we're praying for them. And it helps us to pray for the people we love. It's a powerful way of staying put, staying close by, and of embracing the spiritual imbalance of our loved ones with faith that they'll find themselves once again. That is Mi Sheberach. Page 253 in the middle. And before we recite Mi Sheberach tonight, we call to mind Denise Nehorai, Kayla Schwartz, Charles Schwartz, Marcy Siegel, Alan Siroti, Melody Smokin, and Aaron Brock. And I invite the rest of us with loved ones whose names we'd like recited for Mi Sheberach to please stand, and I'll point to you and we'll recite the name or names, and then we'll sing together. Susan?
bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
You got it.
We'll turn now to page 282. Page 282, the bottom of the page. We rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המורם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני ברך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We can be seated. We turn our thoughts now to sacred moments of Kaddish, moments of memory as we think of loved ones and family members, members of our community who are no longer with us. I can't help but think also that as we're in this beautiful space, really for the first time tonight, about all those on whose shoulders we as a congregation stand, who had the vision for what's behind us. I'm looking here, we're in the Diane and Gil Glazer Chapel, both of whom are relatively long gone. But we remember all those who came before us, who enabled us to be here, enabled this all to be here. We also think of those for whom we're in a period of Shloshim, those who have died during these past 30 days, as we call to mind Ted Bird, Yuet Shun Ho-Chan, Anna Chinsky, Hillary Costin, Mike Culver, Alan Feuerstein, Linda Hochman, Sid Kolpas, Coco Kolnar, J.C. Nadell, Eunice Nazarian, Gideon Rossner, Marcel Reisenberg, Jane Schreiber, Blossom Smith, Donald Vaughn, and Pearl Yeager. We add to their names the names of those whose yahrzeits occurred during this past week: Max Ackerman, Leonard Scott Barkan, Donia Bersowski, Eugene Bernstein, Sully Bernstein, Aaron Birkin, Paul Chan, Betty Coleman, William Copen, Erica Coder, Marvin DeRoven, Devorah Dissner, Sue Dorff, Arkady Ediovich, David Ettinger, Raymond Feldman, Robin Feldman, Jack Feldman, Raymond Find, Isaac Abraham Fogelman, Beth Freed, Ruth Fromowitz, Bill Gilbert, Gladys Ginsburg, Michael Glantz, Nicholas Gluckin, Fred Goldman, Burton Goldwater, Mary Gordon, Elizabeth Gottlieb, George Grant, Charles Greenberg, Isidore Greenberg, Martin Grover, Milton Gumpert, Eleanor Haas, Nori Habibian, Sharon Hayden, Judith Heim, Betty Heisler, Hyman Hoffman, Adolf Hoffman, Ruth Hoffman, Rita Howard, Judy Jaffe, Inez Johnson, Marissa Jones, Felix Judah, Edwin Kahn, Joan Kamenow, Beverly Kay, Marilyn Keith, Helen Kelson, Diane Kind, Sally Cobrine, Paul Lampert, Belle Laserwitz, Margot Lee, Dorothy Levin, Sandy Linka, Rose Linker, Gilbert Leisner, William Lowenberg, Hugo Malvoin, Dorothy Miller, Hal Minter, Milton Noodleman, Millie Newman, Kahan Baba Normand, Albert Nussbacher, George Pollack, Boris Porter, Jerry Price, Max Renoff, Joseph Rosen, Bernard Roth, Ethel Rothman, Dorothy Rothman, Grace Rubenstein, Marshall Sapphire, Claire Satnick, Walter Sauter, Sarah Schrimmer, James Schlesinger, Shirley Schwartz, Abraham Shapiro, Rosina Shear, Leah Siegel, Wally Sloan, Inga Smedrisman, Walter Stern, Herschel Tenenbaum, Mary Traub, Eleanor Uslin, and Rocio Wyckoff. If there are names to add or a name that I mispronounced, please feel free to add it at this time. We also call to mind those to whom we are grateful but do not know, those who have fallen defending the flags of the United States of America, the state of Israel, all the innocent victims of senseless terrorism and violence all over the world, particularly in Ukraine tonight, as well as everyone who has no one to say Kaddish for them. We take them all into our hearts as our own. Zichronam livracha, may their memories always and only be for a blessing. The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 294. We rise. Itgadal v'itkadash me rabba, ve'alma divrach ilutei ve'amlich malchutei, b'chaye echon v'yom echon, v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru, amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei d'kudsha b'richu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen.
We'll end as we did in days of yore, the singing of Adon Olam.
But before we do that,
Before we sing Adon Olam,
very, very briefly, we just want to, first of all, on behalf of Cantor Picat and myself, we wanted to thank you, Cantor Gurney, and you, Rabbi
Is it my
Yanis,
birthday and no one told me?
for putting together the idea of this wonderful service. So thank you so much for bringing that to us. We also want to thank our amazing musicians. Lisa, would you like to introduce them?
Hope Easton on the cello, Leo Chalyapov on like 5 different instruments. We have Jordan J.J. Ross, a Browerman alumni who comes and blesses us with his presence for Shabbat evenings. And of course, our music directors duo extraordinaire, Bill Beck and Susan Rosenstein. So thank you so much for making this evening a possibility with your beautiful music. Again, we're gonna conclude with those ancient Piyutim Adon Olam, page 321.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol, Yirtzini V'ra.
Le'et nasa, b'chefso kol, Azai melech, Shemo nikra.
Levado
עולם השם מלך בטרם כל יצים נברא עת נשא וחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם השם מלך בטרם כל יצים נברא עת נשא וחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה.
Shabbat Shalom. We remain standing for our evening Kiddush and a little motzi. We join together in the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kosho be'ahava u'ratzon inchilanu zikaron le'maaseh v'reshit כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר יציאת מצרים כי באנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת אמן לחיים.
Test. Okay. It is my distinct honor, yeah, I know, to call up, to hold the challah and lead us in motzi, our birthday boy from this past week, Rabbi David Eshel.
Excuse me. Everybody.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam המוציא לחם מן הארץ. Amen. You tear the challah.
Steve, pull with me. 1, 2, 3. Yeah! Shabbat Shalom!
Shabbat Shalom. Onyx Shabbat, I'm assuming, is on Siegel Patio. Where is Donna? Because you know these things. You don't know either. Oh, we're in Dreher tonight. It's outside, but not up here. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Really good.
How many after they are in the middle, right? Why was he having her?